Hi everyone. So I've got a Gmail associated with this channel. It's on the About page, and today I got a good follow-up message from Joshua Perry, who had actually commented in the comments on my video about Wolverine earlier, and then he went and got some hard numbers. He got them from comicron.com. A lot of people ask me, where do you get your sales figures or your screenshots when I do them? And they all come from comicron.com. It goes back, and I'm talking like sales for single issues and trade paperbacks goes back about 20 years or so, and it's really shocking when you compare sales even, quote, after the crash of the late 90s to what they are now. And it's very, very shocking. But even like 10 years ago, things were much, much better. So anyway, he broke down in some really good detail. So I was kind of debating how to cover what he sent me, and then I was like, screenshots, but it would have been a million screenshots, or read it out loud. I'm just going to put it in the description where you can read the whole email. So he did all the hard work about this. I just talked randomly into a phone over here on the Hudson, and but anyway, basically what it comes down to is X23 was introduced, like way back when I was in the Marines, like the 2004, in a cartoon that I think was called X-Men Evolution, and then she was in a series from Marvel in the early Quesada days, and then she kind of became, the X23. She had her own series. Now her series from several years ago didn't sell very good. It averaged around 20,000, which is basically like the cancellation point. And then it was canceled, and as Joshua put, she was folded into other teams. Now at the time, Wolverine was selling twice what X23 was, just in his own books, and then he was also a lead in the X-Men and the Avengers. So his books sold twice as much, so about 40,000. But when you add up all of the books that he was a main character, it was 180,000. So we're comparing 180,000 from Wolverine starring books compared to X23 selling 20,000. So then they decided to get rid of Logan because he is a cis white male, and you got to replace all the cis white males. This is not 2 or 3 years ago. This was like conspiracy talk, but now it's just obvious. Like Alex Alonso, Dan Slott, they've said this flat out. This is their plan. So then they basically had Wolverine like covered in molten adamantium, and he's basically like a statue, just asphyxiated inside. So they moved on. They did do Old Man Logan, and then even more confusingly, they brought Old Man Logan into the current Marvel Universe. So he's back on the X-Men, he's back on the Avengers, except for he's got gray hair. Now they kind of played it two ways. They played it in one way where he's like older and slower, and then sometimes they just play him like the old Wolverine. He just kind of like is more taciturn, and he has gray hair. I swear to God, Greg Landru liver spots on him in the on one of the current covers with him. But either one, other ones, you wouldn't be able to tell him apart. Besides, he wears a duster now. But X23, they decided to relaunch her as the all-new Wolverine when they did all new, all different, like 2 or 3 years ago. And they were very, very proud of themselves, because X23 as Wolverine now sells twice as much as it did when she was X23. This is how they measure success. They took a canceled book and they brought it back, and they doubled the sales. The only thing they had to do was get rid of 2 Wolverine books that sold twice as much, and take him out as the lead. He's now on, I think, X-Men Gold, but he's just like, it's kind of like a tag along. He's not even the main character anymore. So we've found out that the metric for success would be any other company's metric for failure. Is that we had to cancel our most popular soda, but then our like 12th most popular soda doubled its sales. And so let's pat ourselves on the back. Now again, one thing I was thinking about when I did when I talked about these distaff characters, that means somebody who's basically descended from someone. Although guys like Robin would not be a distaff of Batman, but every Spider-Girl hero person is distaff of Spider-Man. So Wolverine can exist as Wolverine. He can be Wolverine, he can be Logan, he can be Old Man Logan. But X23 only survives using her pseudo-father, sort of brother's name. And it's the saddest type of success I can ever think of. Only thing I can think of would be like something like, you know, typically, and you see this a lot with actors, is if they've got the famous father, they'll actually change their name because they want to get ahead. This is one of those things that killed, I'm blanking on Will Smith's woke son, Jaden Smith. So Jaden Smith came out in a movie called After Earth, and it was very obvious that he was not ready for a lead. It was very obvious that he got the lead because he's Will Smith's son. And actually, no, he actually came out in The Pursuit of Happiness, where he was good, but he had a simpler role. They tried to make him a lead, and it just didn't work. And he basically like killed his reputation. But you look at guys like, Martin Sheen, and then his son wanted to be Emilio Estevez. Nick Coppola changes his name to Nick Cage because he wants to earn his way on his own, as not as one of the Coppolas, but as himself. So we see this constantly with these SJW characters. And like I said, people were saying, female Wolverine, X23, she's not an SJW character. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking she still is, because she's done a classic thing of SJW characters where she doesn't survive on her own. She was a fairly successful character as X23. I mean, she's coming up on 15 plus years of being in existence. She came out in the movie in actually a younger version. It was very, very successful. She had a very good reaction by the general public. Nobody saw her as just a rip-off of her pseudo-father. I get a lot of pushback about what exactly her relationship to Logan is. I still contend that the best analogy is brother, but he tends to get pushed into the parent role, which is kind of weird. But I seem to be fighting a losing battle on that one. But just like I said about these, one of the big things is they say, oh, we don't like cis white males, we're going to replace them, but the shadow never goes away. Everyone's always asking, where is Poochie? X23, even though she was heavily influenced by Wolverine, she kind of held her own. She held her own in a small way that was appropriate to the character. When she was X23, that was, even the moderate success was legitimate success because the character stood on her own. But right now, she basically literally has to wear her dad's clothes. It's the saddest thing. My dad was in the Air Force. Imagine if I would have been this complete failure in the Marines and the Army, and then I just started showing up to work in my dad's officer flight suit. It would just be pathetic. And we would just. Okay, so this is a little bit ironic since me and my dad have the same name, but I didn't go into the Air Force. I didn't wear his whole flight suit. I didn't tell people to call me the nickname that he likes to be called. Even with the same name, I forged my own identity in a similar vein. You want to call her X23, you want to call her Honey Badger, you want to call her Javelina, Lady Wolverine, Talon, whatever you want to call her, that works. But when you call her, Wolverine, it basically says, yeah, she can't make it on her own. She needs that help. She needs her dad to cast her as the lead in After Earth. It's pretty sad, and there's no legacy, no pun intended, to it. This road doesn't lead anywhere. When you create a good character, sometimes it takes a while for them to catch on, and sometimes you find a new way, and some characters will even get a second birth. Deadpool was popular from the beginning, but about 10 years ago they really started to push him, and it actually worked to push his popularity up. I think they could have capitalized on X23 by taking advantage of the movie, or taking advantage of the popularity and her acceptance by the audience because of the movie, and pushed her in that direction. Actually de-age her. I think she was 10. No, I actually think the actress was 12, but she looked like she was 10. So you do that. People were very interested, and set it in the continuity of that movie, where Wolverine is dead, DEAD, dead. He's not coming back. He's not encased in adamantium where they can rescue him. Like, he died of, you know, the way he died in the movie. Set it in the movie continuity, and then let it rise or fall on its own success. I guarantee you hand that premise to someone like Jeff Lemire, he's going to get at least 2 years of it, and it's going to get acclaimed. It's going to be a good book. Instead, they lost faith in their own well, not their creation, a Quesada era creation. This is a hallmark of SJW Marvel. They have no faith in their own characters. So all they can do is kind of like dress them up in their dad's flight suit, you know, pin their dad's rank on their epaulets, and kind of hope somebody salutes. And it's very transparent, which is kind of a shame, because the current version of X23, Laura Kinney, is not really that interesting. She's completely bland, perfectly capable is how I'd describe her. It's like that kind of offhanded accidental insult that Douglas Ernst gave to Tom Holland's performance as Peter Parker. It's not something to base a series off of. Although one person told me that there's actually some really interesting stuff going on with Gabby, the clone of a clone, and it almost seems like they should really play that up, the clone of, because they've done stuff like this. I mean, Larry Hama had LCD, who was like this Cupid doll girl with like a bomb in her chest. They had Albert, which was like a cyborg Frankenstein version of, and they kept them around for a long time. They had a werewolf called Puppy. Like, it kind of matches that type of stuff, but they always kept Wolverine as Wolverine. You know, they gave him a short nose one time and a bandana. They took away his adamantium and he just had bone claws, but he was still Wolverine. Putting a pseudo daughter, clone sister in her whatever, you know, relatives uniform is pathetic, disrespectful to original character, the fairly solid distaff character of X23, and the audience and themselves. It's all just short money shenanigans. And like I said, they've been holding this up as a success. Basically, they cut the sales of the Wolverine franchise in half, but they doubled the sales of a canceled character, so they're patting themselves on the back. It's completely insane. But anyway, thanks for watching. So people have been asking me to start a Twitter, so I started one today. It's Diversity in Comics, but it's COMX instead of COMICS, because first of all, you're not allowed enough characters to do diversity in comics, and then diversity comics itself is already taken. So it's diversity and comics, but then comics is spelled COMX. It's real bare bones. It has a bad link to the channel that I need to fix, and it has no pictures there, but I'm going to fix it up probably by the time I hit 25,000 subscribers, and then that'll be a good place to @ me if you see something interesting on Twitter. And I'm adding all the really interesting comics creators, so I'm actually only going to add them, so my timeline will only be them, so I'll be able to kind of like keep track of people. But go ahead and check that out. That's one of those things. At first I was not going to do it because I have a regular job, and this channel, I don't really have time to like fully immerse myself in conversations there, but I can definitely read comments, respond to emails, and then keep making videos. So thanks for watching, and I'll have more new comic videos up tomorrow morning. Thanks.